Mother's Day on Sunday.
Welcome, bienvenue, welcome once again to a wonderful IPSA Kind of Magic, the show that promotes all things IPSA, that is the Association of Independent Personal Search Agents, currently chaired by Hamish. Now, Val, friend of the show, Mahesh, often appears on the show. Yeah, both of them are IPSA members, and so therefore know a lot about this. And this is really appealing to everybody out there who wants to know a little bit more about what it is to be within IPSA, and more importantly, the benefits that using an IPSA member can bring. Now, today's topic is one of a knotty one. It's quite an interesting topic. Council mergers and the property data puzzle. Sounds puzzling. Hamish, would you care to take us away?
Puzzling it is indeed. As we well know, the only way forward in life is to change. And sadly, depending on who's involved with it, those changes aren't necessarily to everybody's benefit.
No.
I'm sure there'll be some benefit somewhere. However, we have a sort of ongoing situation, as many of you are aware, because we do speak about it quite frequently. And it's important we speak about it because we're nowhere near completion on this. First of all, it is the transfer of the availability of land charges to land registry. And one of the unfortunate things about this is, of course, the fact that land registry don't know what land charges are. The land charges officers do. And as we've had spoken about in the past, Mahesh, having sort of worked in that arena, knows full well what the land charges responsibility is. And of course, what's happening, of course, with that transfer, there's an income coming through to the councils, which is no longer there as a consequence of this particular sort of aspect. And the other aspect is as well, because of that, the need for as many land charges officers, the councils have suggested, has been reduced. They still have the same workload, interestingly. The workload of the land charges officer does not reduce because they still have to maintain the register and they still have to maintain everything to do with the register. Unfortunately, it's land registry to get the income from it.
So the demand for this sort of information and this kind of work hasn't reduced at all.
No. If anything, it is increased, particularly on new properties. But that's another story for another day. So we've got that going on, and something actually Mahesh won't have a challenge with. I don't believe he could sort this out for us when he sort of speaks on from his particular sort of perspective and his experiences with the way things are changing. But something Val and I notice all too often is the merging of councils. Now, we have spoken about this, but again, it's just a reminder to people, unfortunately, with this particular sort of merger, they're merging councils together to create unitary authorities. Now, of course, we had this madness sort of earlier on where certain people are going to be denied the opportunity to actually sort of obtain new councillors should they wish to in these particular sort of areas. However, the government, for some reason, changed their minds about this, I think for legal reasons. So not quite so many councils are preventing people from voting, which is rather a good idea. However, it doesn't stop this rather significant sort of outreach, if you like, of the government to try and create larger councils for each of the council areas. So the council areas are merging. We're getting 5,000 people plus in each of those council regions. And as a consequence of which, we're losing yet more experienced staff. So a combination of both of things happening are not helping things. Now, of course, what is one of the biggest challenges that we face as IPSA members is we have to refine, well, we don't have to, but we choose to refine the data. Our major purpose is to make lives easier for solicitors. So here we are trying to reduce the amount of work they have to do by having to do more work ourselves. Now, we don't mind that because we're professionals and that's what we actually sort of take on board. But it does have a significant impact on those people who are actually carrying out the the work with the local authorities.
Mahesh, welcome to the show. This defector that you are from over to the dark side. So this brain drain of which Hamish speaks, the workload, if anything, is increasing because of the collapsing into each other or absorbance, as it were, of land charges into places that don't necessarily know how to deal with them. You're getting less manpower or woman power or whatever you want available to take on this increasing workload. This surely has a knock-on effect, yes?
It does. I think sort of Hamish touched on the subject of obviously sort of the amalgamation of councils and sort of becoming unitary authorities. When I started my career out all those many years ago as a land charges computerizing assistant sort of thing, I started out in 91, 92 or whatever it was. In 96, Cardiff actually went through a reorganization and became a unitary authority, taking on board two parts of Rhondda and Taff Council. So two areas which belonged to a different local authority. Cardiff took those two areas on board. I think, if I remember correctly, Rhondda and Taff took a small part of Merthyr Council on board. And then there were places like Caerphilly Council, who merged two councils, which were Isloyn Borough Council and Rumney Valley Borough Council. So two councils there, Rumney Valley and Isloyn, merged to become Caerphilly. So in that respect, there was a lot of disorganization and reorganization. In a weird way, it worked out slightly better for us because you weren't going to so many different individual offices to collect the data. It was a bit more centralized. So it worked in that sort of favor. But in terms of staffing levels and whatever else, yes, you had local authority staff who were then merged into maybe 4 staff were merged into 2 roles or 3 roles. So you had that impact of obviously a few redundancies and whatever else. Some of those redundancies were from experienced staff as well. So you've obviously got that issue where you're losing all of that knowledge coming into the councils, sort of thing. So it happens all the time. Sort of, I know with the Welsh government, the way there have been proposals over the last 4 or 5 years of even the unitary authorities which are in place now. For example, I think it was Merthyr and Blaenau Gwent. They wanted to merge those 2 councils into one larger authority, or maybe 3 authorities into one larger authority to cover the sort of the South Wales area, but just outside Cardiff, sort of thing. So
do you think this is purely a cost-saving exercise?
It's indeed a cost-saving exercise. When you look at the amount of money that all the councils are burning through in terms of your council tax, the money can't go on forever. People don't want their council taxes increasing by 30-40%. And that's what would happen if the individual councils stayed as they were. So by merging, you got less staff, less costs, and hopefully sort of a more refined system. But it just never works that way.
Yeah, because surely if you've got less staff, Val, welcome to the show. Surely with less staff there trying to do the job that was previously done by several more staff spread over, in Mahesh's case, multiple locations, you're going to end up with the mother of all confusion.
It's definitely a lot of confusion. I mean, take I think it's Cumberland. They've merged. I think it's 3 councils have merged together.
Throws his head into his hands.
Yeah, 3 councils have merged, which is fine in theory. But then you go onto a website that you think might guide you as to how to do and where to find, and then you actually find out that you need to deal with the 3 individual councils for A, B, and C. But then they'll have merged on that bit, but then nobody knows about that bit. So that becomes complicated. And what I've also noticed that even the councils that aren't doing the unitary thing, there's quite a few councils now merging their building control departments, which is like really, there's I think it's Derbyshire and East Midlands. So East Midlands, so even though it's not a unitary, you've actually got, I think it's 5 or 6 councils. You've got Ashfield, Mansfield, Broxtowe, Erewash, something else. Now they've merged building regs. So, and it's called something different, and but it's all dealt with through Erewash Council. So
Right.
the others have all put everything together. So whereas you would normally go to an individual council to find out the information in regard to building regs, now you can't, but a bit you can and a bit you can't. But so people have to apply to Erewash, even if they live in Mansfield, for building regs. And
I
it's the
thought that
same.
part of these becoming unitary authority was to provide a simpler point where you can get this from. It doesn't
It's
appear to have worked.
definitely not simpler. So then you might have some of them that are HMLR land registry, some
Right.
of them that have got their own land charges, some of them have got their own. So it does become very, very complicated. So even those that are not becoming unitaries are somehow starting to merge other departments together to try and, to cut the staff down. I mean, Erewash, has taken on, I think, 5 other councils of building regs. So you can't approach Mansfield now and ask them anything. You've got to go to Erewash if you want to know anything about Broxtowe, for instance. And that's, to me, that's quite complicated. But I think so. That's another aspect of this, of where councils are trying to merge different departments together and not for everything.
Yes, hello to only our new listeners. I say you're popping in. We're talking about the independent personal search agents, the association thereof, and we're talking about the challenges currently facing with mergers. Now, Hamish, it seems to me that it's one thing to save money, but you're going to create greater confusion and complexity. All the more reason to use a personal search agent who has kept themselves abreast of all these wonderful changes and therefore knows how to get the actual data.
Well, one of the significant advantages to solicitors, of course, is the whole operation is totally seamless as far as they're concerned. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens because they know they're going to be looked after by somebody who knows the councils and knows exactly what's going on with the councils. The challenges, that really the major challenges, and I don't know quite how they're coping, are the corporate conveyancers, the factory conveyancers, who have sort of multiple volumes, because with them, of course, they're dependent upon the volumes. So when you start having this sort of scattergun approach, and I think Val's suffering a little bit more than both Mahesh and I, I'm pleased to say. Well, not really. I don't mean.
Hang on a moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll suffer. Don't mind me.
However, it's not anything like as challenging as that with some of our councils. Much of the same things happening, of course. We've got mergers going on here, there, and all over the place. And I think the saddest aspect is it does really challenge the relationship that we have had and developed sort of over those years. The staff that we've known all that particular sort of time, they're going, and they end up putting staff in there because of the chopping and the sort of changing. The inexperienced staff, of course, we don't know.
Right.
So it's very difficult, and because we're no longer visiting each of these councils either. In the majority of instances, there's still a few to be visited, but so the relationship is pretty well fallen apart. It's by email if you're lucky, or in some cases, like Val is suggesting there. I don't know quite how she does it, because you need something of a brain on your head to figure out who to send the emails to. I mean, it's fortunate one of our team, she's an expert, and she keeps an eye on all of these things. And she says, "Oh, Hamish, do you realise such and such a thing's happened?" And I myself am thrilled to bits. And of course, so really from the perspective of a solicitor, what a difference it makes for them.
Mahesh, it seems to me that in this modern age where we are supposedly digitizing everything and placing it, because at the same time that we are digitizing and creating all these wonderful databases, we're collapsing authorities into each other. we're creating more complexity on the one hand and supposedly simplifying access to it on the other. It doesn't seem to have ended up with net benefit.
I think it's like all systems. I think sort of obviously you're always going to have that sort of bedding in period, and sort of obviously sort of it's at the end of the day, it's the consumers you got to feel sorry for, because while all these things are going on, it's all well and good the councils are saying, well, we're reorganizing to make your lives better. At the end of the day, I know what it's like with Cardiff. Having dealt with Cardiff, it took a good 2 or 3 years to get all the data sorted properly, make sure it was all sort of compatible, because you're looking at data from one authority which is coming in one format, and then the central authority has got data in a different format. So you'd have to amalgamate all that information. Some of the information is going to get lost or missed or misrepresented. And so at the end of the day, the only person who's going to suffer really is the consumer. So when you're talking to the likes of Hamish, the likes of Val, myself, all the other IPSA members who've got vast amounts of experience, they've been dealing with these local authorities for all of these years, you've got knowledge, and you know that these people will be able to look at things and say, well, okay, that doesn't look right. We'll go back to the local authority. We'll double check their data. Maybe even ask to look at their files. I do that on a regular basis with Bridgend, sort of go there, sort of check their files, see what's going on, making sure that everything's hunky-dory.
One of the many reasons I think people use IPSA is because the perception is you tend to get the searches done quicker. Val, it appears to me that all this kind of collapsation, absorption, merging may not actually play into very well with that.
You know, I think a lot of it still is about how you treat people and how you do try and talk to them, however, whether it's emails and things like that. That is still there to a degree. I mean, I'll just tell you very quickly something that happened to me today. One of my favourite councils, you always hear me talking about Rossendale, where we have to email them, and then 4 weeks later we go there and we take photographs and then they throw them away, etc. So we'd requested a search on a property, and then the results were sent back to the client, and then the client came back literally 3 days ago and said, oh, that plan we sent you, they didn't include this extra bit at the back. It'll still be the same, won't it? And I go, well, no, it might not be the same. I can't guarantee that it will be the same, because I know, because they look at the plan and then they go and look at the plotting sheets and they look at A, B, and C before they give me the piece of paper to photograph. So I very politely emailed them and said, oh, look, this has happened. Could you confirm whether it included A, B, or C? You know, so I get an email back this morning from the land charges officer. He's been there about 9 or 10 years now, but he does think he likes his bit of power. And well, normally, well, oh no, you're going to have to apply for it again, and you're going to have to send the plan in again and wait 4 more weeks for us to come back and say to you whether there was anything on it. But on this occasion, I will tell you there's nothing additional to add on to it.
What?
Bear in mind for future, make sure your client always sends the correct plan, because we can't guarantee we'll do that. And next time you will have to apply for another appointment and wait another 4 weeks. It's this power that they like to have over you. And you go, like, thank you. Sort of and you, oops, you're on the floor.
That's the result of the power we're talking about. That's the result of the power. Thank you so much.
Local authority power, that is.
I thought that was suitably dramatic. Hamish, before Val pulls off her perch again,
I'm back.
Are you back on your perch? There we are.
I am. So just very quickly to finish. So it was me then said, oh, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. When really I'm going, you know, it's bleep, 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 bleep. So you blinking well should send, you know, just say to me, no, I mean, I know it's going to be the same, but I cannot put my pen to paper and say, of course it will be the same.
You need the paper trail to show that it's been
exactly
checked.
But it was his bit of power. I will tell you on this occasion, But for future, make sure this. Oh, yes, of course we will. Thank you so much. Because they like you doing that bit of groveling. Those that are still there, those land charges, but they like that bit of power. And I hope he's not tuning into this, and listening to me saying all this. But thank you, I appreciate it. So yeah, this is what they like. So even if you've not got mergers and you've not got HMLR, you've still got jumped up land charges officers who think they, will always be able to kind of like have that bit of power.
Talking of jumped up, Hamish, where does that leave us now? Can you please take us gracefully towards the end?
Well, it's a good news story, really, because everybody out there doesn't have to put up with what Val has to put up with.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness.
I'm just dramatic. You know me. I'm just dramatic. I like a story.
Val,
I'm pleased as well that on the occasions, and I send work up to Val, I know he's in good hands. And there's usually something, and I think one of the mergers, we've had a couple of searches sort of up there, and I wouldn't have had a clue what to do. So just thankfully, we've got somebody like Val who has that sort of level of experience. And in exactly the same way, anything that goes on in Wales, which could be totally different to what goes on in England, Mahesh has got his finger on it.
Exactly.
So I don't need to worry my pretty little head about such things. So absolutely, no, it's a great thing, and I think it's a great privilege to be part of IPSA as well. And to me, it's a great relationship we have with each other, and when we can actually carry it over into the council as well. Some, of course, we don't have that. We're not able to do it any longer because they won't even speak to us. Right. However, on the whole, it's a positive end, but it is important that we speak to people and tell them why they could have challenges. Particularly at the end of the day, it's the person that's doing the moving that is the important one here. And of course, the person that's trying to sell the property. So we don't want hold-ups particularly. We just want to clear the way so solicitors can get on with the work.
So keep calm and use an IPSA member. Thank you once again, Hamish McClay of Surgical Bearing, set up this in post. Thank you to all of you. I've seen an awful lot of people coming in and out watching us today. Lovely to see you out there. Mahesh, thank you so much. I've had the honour of dancing with Mahesh on the dance floor, so I know what he's like. Val Bennett, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for your excellent stories with a touch of drama. Watch out next week. We've actually got a couple more shows for you this week. We've got Property Quorum tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Don't miss that. It's going to be a good bun fight. And then on Friday, we've got arguably the most watched of our shows, Cladding Matters. Recently hit over 18,500 views. Please do come along to that, as we will be talking about more things about building safety of all sorts. Until next time I see you, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and please keep looking after your mental health. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye all.